final member of our magazine journalism panel this afternoon is GQ's digital editor, Anna Conrad, and she joins me now. Thanks for being here, Anna.
Thank you for having me.
How did you get into the industry?
So I got into the industry through a more kind of unconventional route. So I didn't study journalism because I couldn't afford it. I did philosophy at university, which isn't great help. I don't know if you've ever read philosophy, but it doesn't directly connect to journalism. So I went for an editorial graduate scheme. I wanted to be a music journalist. That was all I wanted to do. So I read a lot of NME back in the day when it was a magazine, and I interned for NME at the time. And then when I was at NME, a job came up for an editorial graduate scheme, and it was across the whole publishing company, so it's called IPC Media at the time, and it asked for a journalism degree, and I didn't have one, and I still applied, and I thought, why not give it a go? I need money also. So I applied for it, and it was this kind of apprentice style day of interviews and tasks, and you had like a Claude, and you had like a kind of Karen at the side monitoring you. It was quite intense, but for some reason I really enjoyed it. I think because it was quite fun ultimately, and I think that if you're really passionate about journalism, it comes out, you enjoy it, you know, you get to speak about it, you get to say all the things you've read and you like. So I got the job, and I ended up doing placements across, so it was 18 months contract, and I did 6-month placements across 3 different titles. So I worked on fashion, I worked on photography and technology, and then I worked across mature women's lifestyle, which is like knitting. So I was kind of writing about I was writing about knitting in the day and going to gigs at night, and it was quite an interesting lifestyle to lead. And then before I finished there, I got a job at the Times, so I left early.
What led you into writing for a men's publication when you did work full-time?
Yeah, I think, so I was at the Times before, and I was freelancing for GQ while I was actually at the Times. So I got a lot of writers across the Times cross with GQ. So you had Hugo Rifkind, he was a columnist for the Times. Anthony Lloyd is a really famous foreign correspondent. And they all had like long reads or sections in the magazine. And I love long reads. That's really what I enjoy reading. That's what I enjoy writing about. It feels like when you've got a climate where everything's so fast, you can properly invest in a piece of really good journalism. Yeah. So I noticed that they were all writing there, and I really loved the stuff that they were doing. So I was like, I really want to be there. That's where I want to be right now. It didn't feel like a kind of, men's magazine, as it were. I was just interested in the journalism. Yeah. I was interested in the stories and the writers. So I actually, Fire Festival was one of the major things that we talked about before that I ended up covering for them. And that's such an opportunity where GQ took the story. It was a very GQ story. It was a bit insane. It had all those.
I read that one actually. Yeah, it was a mess.
It's a mess. It's an absolute mess, and it was this social media meltdown, and everything went wrong. But before, when I initially pitched it, it was luxury. It was a lifestyle thing. It was could this be the new ultra luxe festival? So GQ took that. So that's how I ended up going into GQ.
Yeah. Do you prefer working on a more like newspaper type stuff or more magazines and like online presence?
I love both of those things, and I think they both help each other. So I think when you go into a newspaper background, it is so different from magazines. It's quite hardcore, and you learn very quickly, but you do shift work. So I remember doing 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. I did 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. I did a couple of times a month, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. So I did overnight shifts. Oof. Yeah, that wasn't great. And I love dinner, and that's quite a hard thing to give up as an entity. It's not the thing that you hear about most. But it puts you through your paces, and you learn very quickly, and you really have to have a good editorial judgment. So you have to know what's right for certain things. You have to know legally what works as well. Yeah. So when you have all of that information to hand, and you go to, so I went from magazines to newspapers back to magazines, you kind of come in with a brand new approach to everything. You can kind of take the stuff that newspapers are great at, like the amazing writing, really strong work ethic, access, interviews, digging beneath the surface, all of those fantastic things, you can bring that to a magazine, and you can essentially push it further and make it work harder.
Yeah. What is the best piece of advice you can give to our magazine journalists?
Don't give up, honestly. If this is something that you're passionate about, a lot of people will tell generally people, it's not a personal thing, but a lot of people are quite, they've been in the industry a long time, and potentially they'll say it's very difficult, it's doomed, all these words that people love to hear. But I think that if you're really, really passionate, you'll go through a lot of ups and downs, but you've got to be very focused, and you've got to really want it, and you've got to get that buzz when a piece comes out and really enjoy seeing your byline in a place where you potentially couldn't get it before. It's all about building up a lot of experience and a lot of understanding about how the industry works, but don't let people put you off it.
Okay. Go for it then.
Exactly, yeah. Be positive.
I've been Robyn Nuttall with the insider information from this afternoon's magazine panel at the University of Gloucestershire Media Festival. Keep up to date throughout the rest of the festival via www.uogmediafest.com.